And welcome to Fox News Sunday Panel Plus with Nina Easton, Julie Pace, Jennifer Rubin, and former Senator Evan Bayh. The big news overnight, the fact that for the second time in 3 days, Israelis have launched airstrikes against military targets inside Syria. Apparently, we don't know this for sure, but apparently they were all advanced missiles that had been sent from Iran to Syria and were being shipped to Hezbollah, the radical terrorist group on the northern border of Israel in Lebanon. That crosses a red line for Israel, and they decided to take out those missiles with a series of airstrikes over the last 2 days. It's interesting because this all comes at a time when the president and top American officials are kind of wringing their hands about involvement and what can we do, and Syrian anti-aircraft defenses, and the Israelis seem to think if we've got a problem, we'll take care of it.
The big question obviously facing this administration is what to do about the rebels. Do you support them or not? Right? Because the rebels have increasingly been infiltrated by al-Qaeda-linked forces. And people like Senator McCain say that's still a minority, and you can still support, part of the rebels who actually support U.S. interests. That's still an opportunity. But every day that passes, you're going to have the problem of these al-Qaeda-linked forces shaping the opposition. The question is, to me, is have we lost our ability to shape the opposition? You know,
there was an interesting article, the lead story in the New York Times today, that says that the whole idea of the red line was completely ad-libbed by the president. We're going to talk to our AP White House correspondent in a moment. But that it was basically ad-libbed. They knew they had to say something. They were worried about the chemical weapons, but the idea of a red line and a game changer and all of the thresholds that sets up, and therefore if the thresholds are passed, that you have to respond, that was not something that anybody expected in the White House the president to say when he got up behind that podium. One, do you think that's true? And two, Julie, how much are they wrestling with trying to figure out what to do?
Well, and whether it's true or not, I think that's a great story in the Times. I don't have that confirmed on my own. There certainly at that point, though, was a desire by the White House to say something. It is interesting, though, that the president used that language. He didn't have to use that language. But now that he has, there are obviously questions about what he's going to do. And they seem to be laying the groundwork at this point for sending some kind of weapons, some kind of lethal aid to the rebels. You're starting to hear this line from administration officials about how al-Nusra, which is a group of the rebels who has been designated by the U.S. as a terrorist organization,
and linked to
Al-Qaeda, is actually seeing some of its gains reduced because of its links to Al-Qaeda, that people in Syria are saying, maybe we don't want to go in that direction. And that, I think, is a very clear sign by the administration that they're trying to say, some of these extremist elements in the rebels maybe aren't as bad as we thought they were, so it will be okay for us to then provide weapons. Whether that's true or not, I think we'll have to see.
But, we've got this contrast now. There is a dramatic contrast there between how the Israelis handle their problem and how we handle our problem.
Well, apparently there's one superpower in the world, and it must be Israel, because they're the only ones who stand up to terrorists, to stand up to the red line. I'm not sure which is scarier, that it was ad-libbed or that we have no red line, apparently. Obviously, this is all being viewed from Tehran. And if we either have no red lines or we will refuse to recognize them once they're crossed, what message is that sending to Tehran? And that's why I think this is on its own so devastating, but more so because of the Iranian crisis. And
what, just to make clear, what you're talking about here is the Iranian nuclear program, and we've said we will not allow them to develop a nuclear weapon, just like we said we won't allow Assad to use chemical weapons. If we step back in one case, what will we do in the other?